Hey guys, welcome to Real Action Sport Fishing. As you can see, we are not on the water today. We're in the house, but we have a decent weather window coming up next week, and we're gonna be doing some sword fishing. So I wanna put together kind of a playlist that shows everything that you need to get ready for and to actually do sword fishing here in South Florida. People make it out to be this crazy complicated and expensive fishery, which it is, but there's things you can do to make it more cost efficient and simplify it, right? There's not a whole lot of in-depth videos or playlists or anything on the YouTube machine. And I kind of wanted to take time to walk everybody through it step by step. And we're gonna start off with making baits. So some of the things you need to make the baits are a set of crimpers, some shears. I just have kitchen scissors, a fillet knife, some snips, the skirt that you're gonna be using, a hook file, a hook. Usually we're using a Mustad 10-0 7691 for a smaller bait like this. Sometimes we'll get mahi bellies that are a little bigger, so we use an 11-0. Glow beads, the appropriate size crimps. We're using 300-pound Mamoy Extra Hard, a mortician's needle, and some rigging floss. So like I said, we're using 300-pound Extra Hard. I prefer the Extra Hard for my leaders. And 300-pound is pretty much the standard. Some people use 250, but I have 300-pound wind down leader on my reel. So I just match everything so I am not sorting through crimps when I am getting ready to get rigged up. I usually fish about 6 feet of leader on my bait. So we got about 6 feet. Let's go ahead and cut this. And we're gonna set this off to the side for now. So I was doing a ton of research, and after doing it so many times and rigging bait after bait, I stumbled across a YouTube channel. The guy's name is Aaron Young, and his YouTube channel is Key West Waterman. He is an absolute monster fisherman. He likes to rig his baits through the outside, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So when you're trying to hook a fish that's 1,800 feet down and you probably have 23 to 2,500 feet of line out on your reel, you're trying to get the best chance you can of actually hooking that fish. And when you have your hook on the outside, you tend to get a better hookup ratio, which I tend to agree with. Some people disagree and the bait holds up better when you hook it through the inside, but there's 1,000 ways to do this. This is just the way I do it and what's worked for me. When you're buying your hooks, spend the money, get good hooks. These are tried and tested, and they're not disposable. So when you hook a swordfish, you're bringing it in, you're usually reusing the hook, and all we do is we just file it. Every single time, you always want to have a sharp hook. I sharpened this one before, but you're basically going to hold it, going to go back and forth, straight down, and you're going to try to match the original angles that are on the hook. So, first thing we're going to do is present the hook on the bait. You'll notice that the mahis, they have naturally a slit that comes down through them, and it does a pretty good job of hiding the hook and keeping everything streamlined. So we're going to lay this out where we think it is going to be a good fit. I try to leave a little bit of meat from the eye of the hook down, about 1/4 inch, nothing too crazy, but that's just my preference. And we're gonna grab our needle and mark this. Hopefully, yeah, if you try to do this like this, you got a pretty good chance of stabbing yourself. It's not the first time that I've done it, and it probably won't be the last. So I try to just present it, then put it down, and then pull up on it. So that is going to be our mark right there. Some people will go ahead and just pass the mono through it now. I like to do 2 wraps, one on either side of the eye of the hook in the rigging floss prior to putting the mono through. It happened to me one time that I was doing it after I put the mono through, and I actually stuck the needle through the middle of the leader. Halfway through rigging the bait is not the time that you want to restart. So to avoid that, I like to just put the loops on now. Some people don't put them on at all. Like I said, there's 1,000 ways to do this. This is just how I do it. So we're going to cut about a foot and a half of rigging floss. And we're going to put it through the eye of the needle. When you are doing this, you want to go from the inside out, if that makes sense. Right there. You want to come down. Then you're going to present your hook. And then you're going to go around the outside of the eye. Okay, so there is more or less what you should be looking at right now. We're going to flip this around and we're going to tie an overhand knot. And cinch that down. You don't want to cinch it down too hard. You don't want to rip through the meat or the skin of the mahi. So you should be left with something like that right now. Trim off the tag ends. And you're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. The first one is kind of the most awkward one to do because everything is still loose, but it'll start coming together. So you're going to come down into the eye and then back around. Tie your overhand knot. And snug that down. Okay, now that natural slit I was telling you about, you're going to lay the hook in there, and you're going to repeat that same process before the bend comes out. So more or less right around here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go from the inside out around the shank of the hook and then come back through. Grab our floss. Let it kind of hang down. Just going to mark real quick where I want that knot, so I have a reference when I let this go. Pop it through, back in, and we're going to do our overhand knot. Cinch that down. This one I like to do 2 knots on, just because it makes me feel better, but Now we're going to trim our tag ends. And we should be looking at something like this right now. Okay, the next thing we do is, you'll see this is super flimsy and it kind of locks up here. So there is bone that runs the remainder of the way down the bait. So I grab my knife and I just follow that line on either sides. And then I grab my snips, or my kitchen shears, and I remove that. And it gives the bait a lot more mobility. I don't take it all the way down. 3/4 of the way is fine. Once you start getting down into this thinner section, it'll probably get ripped up a lot easier. But I just do it 3/4 of the way down. Now we are going to trim away the top for it to be able to fit our skirt. I like to present the skirt prior to sewing this whole thing up. So we're going to present the skirt and put our leader on. Test everything out, kind of a dry fit. So let's mark out where our leader is going to be going through the bait, right here. Open that up a little bit. Grab our crimp and put it through. And slide this down. Perfect. Get our crimpers and make sure you're using the appropriate slot on the crimper. And you don't want to go all the way to the edge. You want to leave it a little bit off. That way you're not crimping down on the actual mono. Crimp it up real good. And you should be left with something like this. Now, right off the bat, I can tell square peg, throw a round hole. We're gonna have to trim the top off here. So let's go ahead and start trimming that up. If you need to, you can put something to hold your leader. That way you're not worried about cutting it. You want to try and keep all the cuts that you do symmetrical. That way you're not worried about the bait spinning or doing anything crazy when it's down on the bottom. You want this to look as natural as possible. So we're going to cut the slot. And we're going to actually shorten this skirt down. It's a little long. So just go ahead and trim that. And let's test fit this. Slide it through. I am pretty happy with that. I'm going to take some off the top right here, but I'm pretty content with that. Very cool. Let's pop the skirt off. Cut out whatever we have to cut out. Just this top little section right here. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to start stitching the bait. So we're going to try and get about 4 feet of floss to get us down to the end of the bait and back. And so when you're actually stitching it all the way down the bait, you don't want to take the floss all the way back to the other tag end. You want to leave just 3-4 inches so you can keep running it. So we're going to start here at the top of the bait, the front of the bait, excuse me. And we're going to leave about 5 inches of tag end off of this side. And we're just going to start sewing it up. You're trying to go about 1/2 inch from one suture to the other. Perfect. And once you get it started, it's pretty simple. Just make sure you're laying everything out evenly and that you are snugging it up. So it's usually going to take close to 10 to 12 to get all the way down to the bottom. Go. Like I said, there's 1,000 ways to do this. This is just what's working for me. And I'm using, not sure if I mentioned it earlier, I'm using 70-pound rigging floss. Some people use 50, some people use 100. It's all just personal preference and what you feel comfortable with. Okay, so once we get to where we're going to turn back around, it's usually about 3/4 of the way down, or right past the anal fin, we are going to come back through over the same holes that we had already made. So from here, we're going to go into this hole, going up now. Same thing here. Oops. And you'll see that X pattern start to form on the top of the bait as we go sewing it back up the top. Keeping everything as snug as we can. And on the last one, you're gonna see that we are ending up on the opposite side of where we started. So what we're gonna do now is the same overhand knot. And we're gonna cinch that down. One more for good luck. And we're gonna snip our tag end. It's coming together. So now we're gonna grab our skirt and slide that down the bait to sew that in place. That's pretty good there. And we're gonna get our rigging floss and we're gonna go through the center of the head of the actual skirt itself. Just center to center. Pull that through. And we're gonna do another overhand knot. Snug it down. I like to do one through the top and one through the bottom, so we're gonna repeat that again. And there we have our swordfish bait. We're gonna put a glow bead on and slide that all the way down. And please learn from my mistakes. This has happened to me more than once. When I'm rigging the baits, I just go ahead and slide on the crimp that I'm gonna be using to attach it to my ball bearing swivel. It's happened to me that I get out there and then I realize, oh crap, I don't have any 300-pound crimps. So I save myself the headache now and just put it on. So once the swordfish bait is ready to go with your crimp on, your leader, everything ready to go, I usually vacuum pack them. They tend to last a little longer, and as you can see, there's a lot of effort that goes into making these baits, which is why they're expensive. But if you like it, please follow along. I hope to have this playlist up and going. Hopefully with that weather window next week, we can get out there and start targeting some swords. I'd love to bring you guys along and kind of teach you the way I've been doing it. Maybe I'm doing it wrong and you guys can tell me how to do it right. But if you can, please subscribe. Keeps the YouTube machine running smoothly. Well, hopefully, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good night.